Elite scandals don't just anger us, they destabilize us. Because when the powerful appear insulated from consequence, we don't just question individuals, we question a system. Is this corruption? Is this inevitability? Or is this simply how complex societies function? Conspiracies and outrage are justified, but let's ask a harder question. What did the great political theorists say about elites and the limits of democracy? Recent headlines, especially the Epstein case, have reignited that familiar anxiety, shock, anger, suspicion, not merely because wrongdoing occurred, horrible wrongdoing, but because of who was involved. When individuals close to power appear insulated from consequence, a deeper anxiety emerges. Is the system rigged? Is democracy a facade? Are elites untouchable? Before leaping to conclusions, let's take a step back. Political theory has wrestled with this problem long before any modern scandal. The question is not whether elites misbehave. The question is what elite misbehavior tells us about institutional design. James Burnham begins with an uncomfortable premise. Every society is ruled by a minority. Always. Democracy does not eliminate elites. It reorganizes them. In any complex society, some group will coordinate decisions, control information, influence policy, and move between corporate, political, and administrative roles. The existence of elite overlap is not proof of a conspiracy. It is proof of complexity. Burnham's key question is not, do elite exists, but are elites internally competitive? Freedom survives when rival elites expose one another, when no group becomes permanently insulated. So a scandal becomes diagnostic. Does it trigger accountability? Or does it disappear into protection? Vilfredo Pareto adds another dimension. He argued that all societies experience circulation of elites. Old elites lose adaptability, new elites rise. Stability depends not on virtue, but on turnover. When elites protect one another reflexively, when criticism is muted to preserve stability, when access becomes more important than transparency, circulation slows, and stagnation begins. Scandals, in this framework, are pressure valves. They either accelerate circulation or reveal stagnation. The difference matters. So far, I feel like we're seeing a revelation of stagnation. Robert Michels sharpened the insight further. He observed that even movements founded on equality eventually produce leadership classes. This is the iron law of oligarchy. Large organizations require coordination. Coordination produces hierarchy. Hierarchy produces insulation. This is not moral failure. It is structural gravity. The danger emerges when organizations begin to prioritize their survival over their principles. When reputation management replaces transparency. When loyalty outruns scrutiny. Friedrich Hayek offers a different lens. The more decisions are centralized, the more informal networks form around those centers. Influence clusters. Access becomes currency. Reputation becomes protective armor. The more concentrated authority becomes, the stronger the incentive to shield insiders. This does not require secret meetings. It requires human incentives. People protect systems that give them influence, and systems often protect those who protect them. That feedback loop is subtle, but powerful. Karl reframes the entire issue. He warns against turning elite misconduct into a total explanation of history. That way lies paranoia. Instead, he asks a narrower and more demanding question. Are institutions structured so that wrongdoing can be exposed peacefully? An open society is not one without scandal. It is one where scandal can be investigated without violence, myth-making, or systemic collapse. The test of freedom is not moral purity, it is correctability. Can powerful individuals be questioned? Can scrutiny function without destabilizing the whole structure? If yes, the system is flawed but open. If no, the system is closing. There is another danger. When repeated scandals accumulate without clarity, citizens may drift toward a different error. Not trust in elites, but belief in hidden destiny. The temptation becomes, perhaps everything is orchestrated. Perhaps all outcomes are predetermined. In other words, the elites control everything and there's nothing we can do. Popper warned against this instinct. Grand narratives are comforting, they make chaos intelligible, but they replace scrutiny with fatalism. Vigilance must not become mythology. Elite misconduct does not prove that democracy is fake, nor does it prove that systems are pure. It reveals tension. Freedom does not require flawless leaders. It requires mechanisms that restrain them. The real question is never, are elites evil? It is, are safeguards strong enough to withstand them? And that question is not resolved by outrage. It is resolved by institutional design. If the pattern we've examined makes you angry, that reaction isn't irrational. It's normal. Anger often signals that something feels unjust. But anger alone only asks the question, who do we punish? Institutional thinking asks a harder one. How do we make this harder to repeat? If outrage becomes destruction, systems collapse. If outrage becomes design, systems improve. The open society does not demand indifference. It demands discipline. Not the discipline to stay silent, but the discipline to strengthen the mechanisms that restrain power. If this conversation leaves you unsettled, that may be appropriate. Free societies are not sustained by comfort. They are sustained by vigilance and restraint. Anger has its place, but mature political cultures do not eliminate anger. They train it. They convert outrage into reform, suspicion into scrutiny, emotion into design. The alternative is easier: rage, myth, collapse. But the harder path, the open path, is to ask not only who failed, but how we build systems strong enough to survive failure, to prevent similar scandals from happening again. The path is slower, less theatrical, less satisfying in the moment, but it is how free societies endure.